Alcor is pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar. Alcor is a global cloud advisory and implementation services company serving Fortune 500, government agencies, and other leading organizations in multiple industry verticals across the Americas, Canada, and India. Alcor is a ServiceNow Gold Services and Silver Sales partner. We partner with leading technology companies including FireEye, Microsoft, Dell, Encorda, MuleSoft, and BigPanda. We advise leading businesses on cloud platforms, architecture, enterprise service management, and integrating IT service delivery. We also provide business process consulting to capture, re-engineer, and improve processes that can easily be automated to deliver real value. The Alcor consulting team has excellence in business strategy, cloud technology, and organizational change management. Our ongoing webinar series is designed to inform, enlighten, and start discussions within your own organizations. If you require any additional information after listening to today's webinar, please reach out to us through our website, www.alcortech.com. Today's webinar is also on social media. You can follow, comment, and get regular updates for today's webinar with the hashtag AlcorWebinar. That's hashtag or number sign ALCORWEBINAR. We have time reserved at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions into the questions section. Today's webinar topic is Intelligent Customer Service with ServiceNow Customer Service Management, presented by Shea Laughlin. Shea is a senior solution consultant with Alcor Solutions and has over 10 years of experience in IT operations and ITIL. Additionally, Shea has over 6 years of experience with ServiceNow as a former customer at Target and Best Buy. At Best Buy, Shea was responsible for the rollout, support, ongoing development, and management of the ServiceNow operations team. After Best Buy, Shea transitioned to work for ServiceNow as a solution consultant supporting clients with various activities like product demonstrations, technical questions, and road mapping. I will now turn the webinar over to Shea.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks for everyone joining us today. If you're watching this a little bit later, thanks for joining us there as well. So today's topic is really about customer service management. And my goal today is to provide an overview of what customer service management is and how it might benefit your organization. We will have an upcoming webinar about more of the granular details of CSM or customer service management, so more of the technical details, workflows, etc. So today is really about that primer or that introduction to CSM and to see if it's a good fit for your organization. So let's first start out with what is CSM or customer service management. Well, the CSM application on the ServiceNow platform enables you as an organization to provide service and support to your external customers. And we have that highlighted just because we want to emphasize the external customers. So typically when we think of our customers within an IT organization, we're thinking of incidents, problems, changes, etc. But CSM is really geared for your actual customers, the folks that are paying you for a service that you may offer or a product. And those customers can communicate through various channels such as web, email, chat, telephone, and social media. So very similar to how you may do your internal IT activities. And you're going to see some overlap between the two here. So very similar to how we have ServiceNow set up with the service portal, customer service management also has that personalized self-service web portal. So you can provide key information in the form of knowledge articles or even publications. So that way you can provide various information and assistance before cases are created. But if a case does need to be created, we can do that from the portal as well, or from those previous mechanisms, but then automatically route those cases as needed. And we're going to chat a little bit more about that as well. So as we take a deeper dive into customer service management, let's take a look at the CSM vision that ServiceNow has set forth. So in the 5 easy steps that we see here, The first one, we want to make it easy for your customers to engage. And from there, we want to reduce some of that case volume, whether it's from phones, emails, what have you, and drive that more towards self-service or self-help for your customers. Additionally, we can go a couple other routes as well. As we create those various cases and assign them out in step 4, you may have step 3 up at the top here. So as we start talking about the Internet of Things or event management, things like that, all of those proactive ways of gathering information and creating cases within ServiceNow can benefit your customers as well. So this is where we start talking about being a little bit more proactive, doing some monitoring, etc. And then in turn, your customers are going to be able to see those various activities within the portal and within the platform to see what's going on. What's the current health of their various services and products? And then as we already briefly talked about step 4, we're going to assign these out. And the neat thing about customer service management is not only is its own standalone application, but it also communicates very well with the other applications on the platform. And we have a diagram later on to show that as well. And then at the end of the day, regardless of ITSM processes or customer service management, step 5, we want to prevent those future calls. And that's where we tie back into ITSM with customer service management. We're going to revisit this graphic later on in today's presentation, but I just wanted to lay the land of here's where we're going with customer service management. So at a high level, this is what the architecture looks like. So off to the left, we've already chatted about those omni-channel engagement mechanisms, whether it's via phone, it could be the iOS or the Android app, it could be incoming email, or even chat via the portal. There's a multitude of different ways to engage your various customers to either get the knowledge that they need or require, and also create those cases. So that way they can get the status updates, they can get their voice heard. As we transition to the right, the big block on the top here, customer service processes, these are essentially different modules within the CSM application on ServiceNow. So you're going to see there's some similarities to incident management, for example. So we're going to have customer cases. Those are the incidents for your customers. However, we're going to have a little bit more granularity of who those customers are. So we're going to have everything from accounts to contacts, etc. And then at the bottom here, this is where we can tie into IT service management. Maybe a case results into an internal problem for the IT team to work on. Or maybe it results into a change record. You're modifying some code for a public-facing website, or you're changing the way that something works for one of your customers. So now we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive in here. And so as we go into omni-channel engagement, this is where you're going to see various aspects of ServiceNow. And you may be familiar with these already within the ITSM realm. So for example, you have that portal. So built on the service portal architecture, you can configure and customize as needed. If you don't want it to look like ServiceNow, you can completely rebrand it, do your own style sheets, themes, etc. The same thing for creating those cases. So maybe you want to have a service catalog, or you want to have chat enabled on your end user portal. You can do that as well. And not only that, but as you can see, we have a screenshot there where I'm logged into the service portal. So once again, ServiceNow knows who I am when I'm on that CSM portal. Additionally, depending on the type of service offerings you offer as an organization, you may have anonymous login as well, and ServiceNow supports that. Additionally, you may go more traditional with email and phone. Very similar, you can have those inbound email actions, ingest those emails to automatically create those cases. Same thing with phone. If you're going to utilize the Twilio and Notify plugin from ServiceNow, you can already have those routing trees in place. Press 1 to create a new case. Press 2 to get an update to a case. Chat, very straightforward. You may have that chat client on your portal as well, where your customers can interact with you and then start creating cases based upon that, or relaying knowledge articles back to those chat windows. And then additionally, mobile. So being able to utilize ServiceNow on your mobile device. As we go back to the overall architecture of just CSM itself, this is where you're going to see a lot of benefits, not only from a process perspective, but ServiceNow is also going to help structure some of your underlying data about your customers. So for example, contact management. So now you can start laying out who your contacts are for your customers. Are they a VP? Are they part of procurement? Are they just an end user? So now you can start gathering that information, so when you need to support them, you know who to call. You have their phone number, you have their time zone, etc. Additionally, as an organization that is offering a product or a service, you're going to have various contracts and entitlements, and ServiceNow can help you manage those. So for example, you may get 24/7 support, or maybe it's just 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. That's where those entitlements can come into play. Also, what tier of support do you get? And maybe that's based upon the contract that you have. Products and assets. So not only are you offering that product or service, but now you can tie those directly to each customer. And once again, you may have different levels of support. But now when a customer creates a case either from the portal or calls in about it, they can provide you that information about the asset, and then you have everything there in front of you at your fingertips to help that customer. Additionally, you have all of that case history. Maybe you get the same person calling in about the same issue. Well, you can reference all of those previous cases. Or maybe you have a client or a customer that calls in very rarely. You may want to refresh yourself with their types of activities. And this is also where we get into special handling notes. So maybe you have some high-touch clients that require, additional handling or love, if you will, where maybe they're not always the happiest person when they call. Well, you can have a special handling note pop up letting you know that beforehand. Or maybe you have a client that is always, very happy, and you want to give them a little extra attention. You can have special handling notes to pop up for that too. And then lastly, you can visualize that real-time health of the customer's install base. So if they do have those assets and you're utilizing, it could be discovery, or maybe you're just manually mapping out their infrastructure, you can see that as well. So if a router goes down and you're supporting routers for this customer, you can see what else it's connected to. So very similar to ITSM, where you have all of this information on a singular platform, but it's going to benefit you as you're supporting your various customers. And additionally, we're going to see some of these screens when we get to the demo portion as well. So case routing. This is very interesting, where you can do this, again, in a plethora of different ways. You see a screenshot of a workflow here, and this happens to be part of the call tree workflow. So as I stated before, press 1 to create a new case, press 2 to get an update. That's one way. An additional way is via assignment rules. So very similar to incident management. But then also through the Kingston release of ServiceNow, ServiceNow is introducing agent intelligence and machine learning. So ServiceNow can start learning how your cases are being routed, who they're being routed to, so it can automatically do that for you on your behalf. And as we're seeing within Kingston and the next releases of ServiceNow, agent intelligence and machine learning is becoming more of a hot topic. And as always, you can always manually assign. You can utilize the visual task boards that we see on the screen here. But there's a lot of different ways to do that assignment, whether you want to do it manually or automatically. So now we get brought down to the bottom portion here, where a lot of us are already familiar with this today. So we have our service management processes, such as incident, problem, and change. But CSM, or customer service management, can tie directly into that. So let's say you have something that goes awry with one of your customers' network devices. We used the router and switch example before. Is now you can start doing root cause analysis, or RCA, on that. So once again, you can start tying in your customers' cases to a problem record. So now your internal IT team can focus on that problem, create the tasks for other teams to take a look at it, but really identify that root cause. And then once again, once you identify the root cause, you go right into change management. So if you're introducing new code, patch, firmware, what have you, you can now follow the ITSM process to introduce that change to the infrastructure. Additionally, there's other tie-ins to other areas of the platform, such as field service management. So if you have folks that are out in the field and they're providing services either for cabling, gas pump repair, what have you, you can then tie that into customer service as well. So you have your various agent calendars, dispatching, etc. And then we already saw this third bullet point on the CSM Vision is IT operations management. So examples could be event management and orchestration. So if you have event management automatically finding those events, you can then utilize orchestration to fix those events. So that way, your customers and clients, something goes bump in the night, you can automatically remediate that if needed. So now I'm just going to go into a quick demo so we can take a look at what this might look like for your organization. So as we switch over to an example of what the service portal could look like for customer service management, this happens to be the out-of-the-box one for ServiceNow. And you're going to notice it's very similar to IT service management. However, the verbiage has changed just a little bit. So at the top here, we have our create cases. We can take a look at a list of our cases, assets that are assigned to me as a customer, any work orders or any orders that I've placed, publications, etc. So you have your search bar in the middle here. You can always take a look at knowledge articles or service catalog items, but additionally, you can do that down here as well. And very similar, we have our knowledge articles, any discussion topics, and then any support questions. As we go through here, once again, we can create various types of cases. So we can do a product case or an order case. And as we start populating this, once again, ServiceNow knows who I am. I'm logged in as George, but ServiceNow also knows the various items that are assigned to me. So here, if I pick the asset, we're going to automatically pick the product. And everything is always priority 1. And I'm just going to copy and paste this in. Now, you can see that ServiceNow is thinking because they're also trying to bring out knowledge results that are applicable to me. So very similar to submitting an incident, I can take a look at knowledge before creating the case. Additionally, you may want to attach a screenshot. So I'm going to attach a blue screen of death. Not really applicable for this hardware product, but we'll go with it anyways. And from here, I can start supplementing as much information as I need. And once again, since this is ServiceNow, it's fully configurable. So we can add as many fields as we want, remove, etc. Probably already familiar with this, but now we have that high-level overview of what this case looks like. So now we're going to take a look and start updating this as needed. And from here, once again, we have our case, what's the product, any attachments, etc. So from an end user perspective, I could be good. I've just submitted my case, but you know what? Let's take a look at some of the other options that we have on the portal as well. So here we can see some of the other cases that we have. What's the product that's being impacted, the current priority, state. And very similar, you can sort as needed. Same thing, assets, what's assigned to my organization or me as a customer. So now I can see these assets. I can also drill in a little bit as well, just to see what these items look like. So a little bit different from ITSM. You're getting a few more details about the various things that you might be in charge of. Publications. This is a great way to, let's say you have a recall notice, or you have an updated manual for a device. You can post that in the publication section. And then same thing for notifications, just a great and easy way to see what's the state of your various items. So here we can see we have a couple of cases here that are awaiting info from me. So maybe I should take action on this. So once again, this is more of that end user experience. What's that customer experience? And like I said, this is the portal that ServiceNow provides out of the box. You may want to change up the color scheme. You may want to add your own graphics, etc. You can truly make this your own. So as we migrate away, so we've created this case on behalf of George. Let's take a look at what that customer service agent might look at. So as we transition here, we're now more in that fulfiller view, that customer service agent view, where I'm working on these cases. And very similar to most of the modules within ServiceNow, we're going to have that overview section. So this happens to be the Service Manager dashboard. I can now see the various cases by SLA. Maybe we need to take action on a few. What are the various cases by priority, etc. And same thing, customer satisfaction. So as you're resolving cases, you can have your customers provide feedback in the form of surveys. So now you can start building your CSAT scores. And down here in the bottom right, what are the cases by product? So maybe you want to be a little bit more proactive, take a look at the higher volumes, etc. And once again, all of these are interactive. So I can click on this piece of the donut, and we can take a look at all of those priority 1 cases and who they're for. So transitioning back, we can take a look at all cases here. And you're going to have the same look and feel of taking the list views, being able to sort, group, etc. But I want to take a look at the recent case that we just created for George. And from here, you're going to notice that the form design is a little bit different. First of all, we have different fields, but we also have this timeline at the top here. So now we can start seeing the time, minutes with the agent, but also with the customer as well. So since customer service management is really all about the customer, we want to give them the best experience as possible. So thus timing is pretty important. So you can see that this was automatically assigned to the network support group, and it was already assigned to a specific contract and entitlement. And once again, we're pulling that from the assets and the customers themselves. As we scroll down, we're going to see some of the supplementary information. Additionally, we already see that comment from George asking if someone's working on this. And for that, let's assign this to me. So I'm going to be working on this, and we can reply back to George. And as always, maybe we want to do some work notes as well. And as always, you probably want to be as descriptive as possible. So very similar to other areas of the platform, you're going to start working on this case to resolve the customer's issue. So scrolling down, we have all of that supplemental information, but also we have that SLA, so that service level agreement. We can also see any of the emails that were sent out. So here we can see that the recipient was George for these ones to say either we initially opened that case or the comments were added. So once again, you can be as transparent as possible, or as transparent as you'd like to be with your customers. Additionally, are there any related cases? And then speaking of those special handling notes, this is where we can take a look at some of them. Now you can either have them pop up, or you can just have them as a list view here so we can take a look at what those might be. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this one so you can see it. And this is what that pop-up could look like. So an urgent issue is reported. This could pop up and say, there's an urgent issue reported for this account, and we're good. But as you can see here, you can time-base this. So when should you have this alert? And also, what is it related to? And we're relating it to a very specific account. You could also do this on a specific caller as well. So going back to this is where we can start doing any updates. And speaking of updates, you can see that the timeline has changed since we were working on this. So this is going to keep going as needed. Additionally, you may want to take a look at some knowledge articles to relate those. But one of the neat things about this, and this looks a little bit different than what you might be used to within incident management, but you can request additional info from the client. You can also propose a solution, and very similar if you've created a case with High or ServiceNow support, you can always accept that solution or reject it. So here I'm going to say request info, and look at that. ServiceNow wants me to add some details here. So let's go ahead and give some information back to George here. We'll just ask for another screenshot. We're going to make those customer visible and say request info. So as we go back to the other portal here, George can take a look at his cases. And we don't want that one. Let's go back here. We want to take a look at the most recent updated one. We can see that it's awaiting info. And now we have that chat transparency between George and myself. So now George and myself can go back and forth and figure out what's going on. Let's say a day has gone by. Well, maybe I think I found the solution for George here. And with that, let's suggest that George should try rebooting. And from here, we're going to say reboot device in the close codes because I know ServiceNow is going to ask for that. And we're going to propose that solution. So now we're going to see that this is now in the resolved state. But if we transition back to George here, we're going to notice that we have that accept and reject solution. So from here, George has two options. He can either accept it or reject it. And we're going to reject it. And we see that from the little modal option at the top here. But then also, as we go back, we can refresh our list here and see that it is no longer going to be in resolved, but it is now open. So now the support engineer or agent myself, I now have to go back to the drawing board to figure out how to resolve this. But as we're going through this whole process, we're going to see that we're updating the timeline at the top here. And as we scroll down, we can see that the activities are also updating with the same. So once again, the whole premise of customer service management is to provide that experience to your end users for them to create cases, update cases, get their issues resolved. And with ServiceNow, it's really to break that up. So for example, we're going to go through the CSM Vision once again, but it's providing that exceptional experience for those customers. So at the end of the day, hopefully you get to step number 5 here, where you're going to prevent those future calls. But along the way, you're going to have an engaging service portal where those customers can create their issues, take a look at them, and so forth. And whether that's on a desktop, laptop, mobile device, what have you, they can get the information that they need. Additionally, from an internal CSM team perspective, you can now manage your work within the ServiceNow platform. You have the various SLAs, you can put your notes in place, dashboards, reporting, etc. So now you can be more efficient and more transparent of, here's what my team is doing and here's how well we're doing it. And then along the way in step 3, you may have some additional support, whether it's through event management or the Internet of Things like Amazon Dash buttons, Alexa, etc. You can then have cases automatically created and routed. But once again, at the end of the day, it's really trying to get to step 5 to prevent those future calls and ensure that your customers don't have any issues. So this is kind of an eye chart. There's a lot here, but at the end of the day, like I said, we're trying to get to that results section on the right. So we want to be able to decrease customer service costs, increase agents' productivity, get the best CSAT score that you can get, be customer focused, have as much information as possible about your customers so that way when they call or have an issue, you can best support them. If they are having ongoing or reoccurring issues, start utilizing those ITSM processes as well. So doing that root cause analysis, change management, so that way you can get to step 5 in the previous slide of reducing those issues. Provide better customer support. So since ServiceNow is that single system of action, you have all of this information at your fingertips to make educated and better decisions as to how to deal with issues. Eventually, you're going to see those cost savings. And with those cost savings, you can utilize those dollars elsewhere. So whether that's enhancements, hiring additional staff for other project teams and so forth, or introducing net new functionality. You may have the opportunity to do some application and platform consolidation. You may be utilizing a different CSM solution today, but by bringing it to ServiceNow, you may see efficiencies there, but also cost savings. We already talked about the single support system and single reporting system, but we kind of glossed over that higher customer retention. So by being able to provide this type of experience, your customers are probably going to want to stay with you a little bit longer and not look at other vendors and partners. So we started with the right side here. We can now move to the left is how are we going to do this? And we already touched on all of this. So self-service portal, being able to have a service catalog for any of those repetitive requests, giving your customers a different way to engage. So you're not just specifying one way, but it could be email, phone, chat, etc. Having the ability to collaborate in real time. So no longer are you emailing back and forth, but you could utilize real-time chat or even the portal itself, being able to communicate back and forth. Being able to have that historical information about your customers. So that way when an issue does come up, you have as much information as possible for next steps. And that also ties in with knowing about your customers. So you have those contracts and entitlements. And same thing by utilizing the CMDB, asset management, it could be service mapping, ServiceNow Discovery. You can get the real-time health of those physical assets and CIs. We talked about some of the automation. So via workflow, you can start automating some of these steps, whether it's event management, orchestration, or maybe it's just auto creation of tasks. Any form of automation can help. And then same thing, field services, you may want to dispatch out. Having those KPIs or reporting performance analytics, all of that is available on the platform itself. And by being able to do that, you can then start doing some of those cost and profitability estimates and savings. So like I said, the goal is to really do a high-level overview of what customer service management is, hopefully how it's different than IT service management, just as a primer. And then our next webinar about customer service management is really going to be diving a little bit deeper. How do you go about it? What is it that you can do with it, etc. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time in joining us today and open it up for any questions that you might have.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Shea. There are a few questions. I'll get to them in just a moment. As a reminder, please use the question section to ask a question on today's topic. So first question, Shea, does my customer service management team need to know what ITIL is in order to use CSM?
Great question. And it's kind of 50-50 where some customer service management teams know what ITIL is, but it's not required. So as we showed in one of the previous graphics, that they are separate within the ServiceNow platform, but they can be connected. So if you do want to do that root cause analysis, you can integrate with the problem management module. But by no means does that mean that your CSM or customer service management team needs to be well-versed or know what ITIL is.
Okay. Do customers have to log into the portal, or can they log tickets anonymously?
So in that regard, it really depends on the type of experience you're trying to provide to your end users. But to quickly answer the question, no. So you can set up your portal in a way that you can do anonymous, or you have to log in. Now, we do see benefits where you do have to log in, just because we now know more about that person. We can tie certain things to them, whether it's assets, products, etc. However, the CSM application does support that anonymous login, if you will. So if you just need to ask a question or create a quick case, you can do that anonymously as well.
Okay. To use customer service management, do I need to implement everything that you reviewed today?
You don't. You could just go with something as basic as just creating cases for your customers. So that way you can just track and manage the various issues that your customers have. Once again, depends on the level of service that you want to provide to your customers, but I would assume it would also have to deal with budget as well, and also the maturity of the organization. So maybe you start out with just creating cases, whether that's just via phone call or email. You could then go into a phase 2 of let's create a portal for more self-service. And maybe phase 3 is starting to do event management, discovery, etc.
Okay. How does CSM integrate with my investment in Salesforce?
Interesting. So we have a couple of customers as well. I've been working with a couple clients that utilize Salesforce and ServiceNow. Now, the neat thing is that you can integrate the two. So depending on what you're utilizing Salesforce for, We've done everything from migrating folks off of Salesforce into ServiceNow, so importing all of those customer contacts, cases, etc., into ServiceNow, or maybe you're just managing a few attributes in Salesforce and you want to bridge the gap. So from there, I may bring up a case in ServiceNow, but I could pull information from Salesforce to augment my agent duties, so to speak, or have as much information as possible.
Right.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, well, we'll hold off here, see if there's a follow-up. And is my CSM data commingled with my ITSM data?
Another good question. So the customer service management application is a scoped application. So you're going to be in the same database as your IT service management data, but very similarly, depending on your role within the platform, you're not going to be able to see the respective information. Now, coincidentally, if you do have a CSM license on the ServiceNow platform, you also get ITIL access. So CSM folks can see the incident, problem, change, all of that type of data. But as part of your implementation, you can change that. There's always a way to configure it.
Okay. All right. Looks like that's it. All right. Thank you very much, Shea. Very informative. The recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, www.alcortech.com, and through our social media, social networking sites. Thanks everyone for joining. See you at the next webinar.